My name is Jiangwani, and at this moment, I find myself seated upon the floor of my 200 square meter dressing room. Scattered around me are the jewels intended for tomorrow's wedding, their worth considerable and their brilliance dazzling. Yet, my gaze remains fixated upon a hardcover diary adorned with gilded lettering that I hold in my hands. This diary has been my confidant since the age of 15, chronicling a decade of my infatuated musings about Xinyan. Who is Xinyan, you might ask? He is to be the groom at tomorrow's ceremony, my fiancé whom I have pursued relentlessly, employing every means at my disposal to secure. He is also the only son of the Jiang family's esteemed friends, regarded by my parents as the ideal son-in-law. However, at this moment, there is something amiss with this diary. Very much amiss. I distinctly recall that just last night, before drifting off to sleep, I was on the latest page of my journal, using my cherished champagne-colored ink pen to inscribe my dreams and the sweet trepidation regarding tomorrow's wedding. My elegant handwriting, imbued with a hint of deliberate practice, danced across the page. Yet at this moment, the words have all transformed. They have morphed into cold, emotionless print. The content sends a chill coursing through my veins. Jiangwani, clad in a $1 million custom Vera Wang wedding gown, stands in a sacred church, her lips curling into an unmistakable smirk. She is finally to marry Xinyan, the man she has ensnared through despicable means, even resorting to coercing her family business. She believes this is the pinnacle of her victory, not realizing it is merely the beginning of her descent into the abyss of hell. 3 months hence, the Jiang group shall collapse under the weight of a meticulously orchestrated business trap, drowning in debt. Her father, Jiang Haichuan, will be unable to withstand the blow and will suffer a cerebral hemorrhage, leaving him bedridden. Her mother, Lin Wei, in a desperate bid to raise medical funds, will liquidate all her jewelry, ultimately meeting her demise in a car accident while seeking a loan from a usurer. As for Jiangwani herself, the text abruptly halts at this juncture. The following page is blank. My hands tremble uncontrollably. My heart feels as if it is being gripped by an icy hand, rendering me breathless. What is this? A prank? Who has swapped my journal? Xinyan? Or that ever-submissive Su He, who always lingers by his side? No, that cannot be. This journal was custom-made in Italy, featuring a unique lock mechanism known only to me. Moreover, the words appear to have materialized from thin air, overshadowing my original script. I snapped the journal shut, as if discarding a burning coal. Absurd. Utterly ridiculous. I, Jiangwani, the sole heir of the Jiang group, born with a silver spoon, accustomed to luxury and privilege. Xinyan marrying me is a union of power, a match of equal standing. Bankruptcy? Family ruin? Such alarmist rhetoric. Surely, it is merely fatigue from trying on wedding gowns and planning the ceremony, an illusion. Yes, that must be it. Frustrated, I run my fingers through my meticulously tended hair and rise to pour myself a glass of red wine to calm my nerves. As I approach the wine cabinet, my gaze flits over an open financial magazine laid out on the bar. The cover features an interview with the heir of the Shun Group, Xinyan, heralding his innovative vision and future leadership. A routine article. Yet my eyes are irresistibly drawn to a small line of text adjacent to Xinyan's photograph. It is an inconspicuous segment introducing a soon-to-be-published book. The title, A Glimmer in the Palm. Author, a name I do not recognize. It is not the title or the author that captures my attention, but the minuscule synopsis below, a tale of the resilient and kind-hearted ordinary girl Su He, who, after enduring the injustices of the affluent and the relentless bullying of the malicious supporting character Jiangwani, ultimately triumphs through her own efforts and warm character, winning true love, Xinyan, the heir of the Xin family, and achieving success, while witnessing the downfall of the wicked supporting character and her family, culminating in their own ruin, a tale of urban inspirational romance. Boom! It feels as though a thunderclap has detonated in my mind. Hianbanji, Xinjian, Sui. The malicious supporting character, family ruin. Each word aligns perfectly with the bizarre printed content of my journal. The crystal glass in my hand shatters upon the carpet, the dark red liquid rapidly spreading like blood. A chill surges from the soles of my feet to the crown of my head. This is no hallucination. Has that diary foretold my fate? Frantically, I lunge for my laptop, my fingers trembling as I type into the search bar, A Glimmer in the Palm novel. Nothing. No relevant information. A mere preview. The book has yet to be published. I collapse onto the luxurious wool carpet, the wine soaking through my silk nightgown, leaving me cold and sticky. A more terrifying thought seizes me. What if the predictions of that diary are true? Is the world I inhabit merely a book? And am I destined to be the detestable supporting character, loathed by all? The true protagonist is Soo-hee, the one always clad in a faded cotton dress, working in the cafe beneath Shun Yan's office, her doe-like eyes shimmering with vulnerability yet concealing a stubborn resilience. I have encountered her a few times. Each time I saw her, she instinctively lowered her gaze, her fingers fidgeting with the edges of her apron, her voice barely a whisper. Shun Yan seems to regard her differently, patiently listening to her, occasionally offering gentle reassurances when she clumsily spills coffee. At the time, I found her an eyesore, akin to a stubborn smudge of dust on my shoe. I even inadvertently sent a friend to that cafe to create trouble, suggesting to the owner that keeping her would negatively impact certain high-end customers' moods. Subsequently, she no longer worked there. I assumed she had been dismissed. In retrospect, perhaps that was the inception of my wickedness. A wave of absurdity and a greater wave of terror engulfed me. Everything I once took pride in, my lineage, my beauty, the opulent life within my grasp, my perceived love from Shun Yan, rests upon an exceedingly fragile foundation. I am merely a stepping stone, a villain crafted by the author to highlight the protagonist's virtue. In 3 months, all of this shall vanish. My father will be paralyzed. My mother will die tragically. I will lose everything, and perhaps face an even grimmer fate. The abrupt emptiness in the journal feels like a silent, mocking grin, poised to devour me. No, absolutely not. I, Jiang Wani, may be indulgent, may be capricious, and even employ minor schemes to win Xinyan. But I cannot allow my parents to suffer such a tragic fate because of me. I cannot let the century-old Jiang family legacy crumble under my watch. Even if this is a world within a book, even if I am the malicious supporting character, I must alter my destiny. The first step, this marriage must not happen. Marrying Shun Yan is the first stone laid on the path to hell. As dawn breaks, sunlight streams through the grand floor-to-ceiling windows, blinding my eyes with its brightness. I have not slept a wink, my complexion as pale as a ghost, my meticulously styled hair now a disheveled mess. Yet my mind is unusually clear. Wani, why do you look so ill? Are you too anxious? My mother, Lin Wei, enters, startled by my appearance, then tenderly touches my face. Do not worry. I'll be here for you. Today, Wani, you will be the most beautiful bride. Gazing at her well-maintained face, radiating genuine concern, and recalling the chilling description of her tragic demise in that icy text, my heart feels as though it has been pierced by a needle. Mom, my throat is dry, and my voice hoarse. What is it, sweetheart? She asks, worry etched on her face. The words hover on the tip of my tongue, but I find myself choked with hesitation. How do I articulate this? Mom, don't go out. You might get hit by a car. Dad, be careful. 3 months from now, you will have a stroke. Our family is going bankrupt. They would think I am mad, or suffering from pre-wedding anxiety. It's nothing. I manage to force out a smile that is more grotesque than tears. I'm just a bit scared. Silly child, my mother chuckles, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. Marrying Shun Yan has been your dream since childhood. What is there to fear? Shun Yan is steady and reliable, and the Shin family and ours are longtime friends, well acquainted. Rest assured, if he dares to bully you, your father and I will be the first to object. Steady and reliable? Well acquainted? Reflecting upon the cold and ruthless Shun Yan in the book, who turns against the malicious supporting character Jiang Wani after the Jiang family's downfall, I can only find it ironic. His true affections have always been reserved for the pure, kind-hearted protagonist, Soo-hee, who shines in adversity. And I, Jiang Wani, am merely a loathsome obstacle he is compelled to marry under familial pressure. Mom, I take a deep breath, my nails digging into my palms. I wish to cancel the wedding. What? My mother's smile abruptly froze, her voice rising in pitch.
Vanya.
What nonsense are you spouting? At a time like this, the invitations have all been sent out, and the guests will be arriving this afternoon. The hotel, the wedding preparations, everything is ready. Are you joking? Her reaction was entirely within my expectations.
I was not jesting.
I lifted my head, striving to project a sense of determination in my gaze. I no longer wished to marry Shinyan.
Why?
My mother's face turned ashen. Did Yan do something to wrong you?
Tell me. No.
I shook my head. It's me. I no longer love him. This reason felt pathetically weak. Indeed, my mother did not believe me at all. No longer love? You pursued him for 10 years. What have you sacrificed for him? And now you suddenly claim you don't love him?
Villainess.
Are you in your right mind? Or have you been incited by someone? Her sharp gaze swept across the room, as if attempting to uncover the person who had influenced me. No one incited me. This is my own decision, I insisted.
Mom.
Just let me be willful this last time. Cancel the wedding, and I will bear all the losses. You bear the losses? With what? My mother was seething, her chest heaving with frustration. This is not merely about money. It's about the face of the Jiang and Shin families. Your own reputation. If you call off the wedding at the last minute, how will others perceive the Jiang family?
How will they view you?
Who will want you in the future? I don't care. I raised my voice as well. I don't care how others see it. Is it so wrong for me to desire to live? To want our family to live well? The last sentence nearly erupted from me, infused with a despair and fear that I hadn't even realized I possessed. My mother was momentarily stunned, gazing at me with uncertainty. Wani, what has happened to you? Are you feeling unwell? What nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean by wanting to live? Seeing the worry and confusion in her eyes, I felt as though all my strength had been drained in an instant.
No.
I could not continue this confrontation. I understood my parents far too well. They loved me, but they cherished the dignity and legacy of the Jiang family even more. Without any evidence, based solely on my declaration of not wanting to marry and a few frantic words, they would never agree to annul a union that entailed the interests of two prominent families. A direct confrontation would only lead to being deemed mentally unstable. In such a scenario, I would be powerless, forced to watch as events spiraled toward a terrifying conclusion. I needed to calm down. I had to remain composed.
Mom.
I said, lowering my head in resignation, my voice weary. I'm sorry. I must have been too anxious and didn't sleep well last night. I was speaking nonsense. Let the wedding proceed as planned. My mother visibly relaxed, yet the concern in her eyes deepened. She approached and embraced me, gently patting my back. Good child. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here. It's just pre-wedding jitters. It's perfectly normal. Once today is over, everything will be fine, all right? In her embrace, my body felt rigid. Fear coiled around my heart like an icy vine, tightening with each passing moment. The wedding could not be cancelled. Therefore, my plan to alter my fate must unfold after the ceremony, racing against time before the narrative officially commenced. The crux of my strategy for changing my destiny was straightforward: to maintain distance from the protagonists, thus preserving the Jiang family. Shinyan? I no longer wanted him. Whoever desires him can have him.
Sue?
You are the true heroine. You and Shinyan are fated, and I shall swallow the key. I absolutely refuse to meddle. If I withdraw, no longer playing the role of the malicious supporting character who propels the plot forward, no longer bullying Suhi, and no longer providing Shinyan with reasons to despise me and retaliate against the Jiang family, then the so-called business traps and family ruin should not come to pass. Right? Yes, it must be so. As long as I withdraw, the narrative will collapse. Sunlight streamed through the cathedral's stained glass windows, casting a kaleidoscope of colors upon the scene. The organ played a solemn and sacred wedding march. I linked arms with my father, Jiang Haichuan, as we walked step by step down the aisle strewn with white rose petals. The guests' gazes were fixed upon me, filled with awe, envy, and blessings. My father turned to me, his eyes brimming with pride and reluctance. At the end of the aisle stood Shinyan, clad in a perfectly tailored black suit, his posture regal, his features handsome. He stood there like a prince from a fairy tale. Yet I knew he was not my prince. He was my death knell. I wore an impeccable, bride-like smile on my face, yet inside, I felt frozen. Each step felt like walking on the edge of a blade. The path leading to Shinyan, as depicted in the book, was a one-way street toward destruction. My father solemnly placed my hand into Shinyan's. His hand was dry and warm, exuding a sense of control over everything. I could feel the strength emanating from his fingertips, an unspoken declaration. The officiant began to recite the vows. Mr. Xinyan, do you take Miss Jiang Wan-yi to be your lawfully wedded wife, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, until death do you part? Xin Yan's gaze fell upon my face, deep as the ocean, revealing little emotion. His lips parted slightly, his voice steady and powerful. I do. Miss Jiang Wan-yi, do you take Mr. Xin Yan to be your lawfully wedded husband, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, until death do you part? All eyes were upon me. I felt Xin Yan's grip on my hand tighten momentarily. I lifted my gaze to meet his, and in that moment, I faced the scrutiny of every guest present. A radiant, even more brilliant smile blossomed on my face, as if I had just heard the sweetest promise in the world. Then, I spoke my answer with unwavering clarity, laced with a hint of tremulous joy. I do. As the words left my lips, I noticed Xin Yan seemed to release a barely perceptible sigh of relief, his grip loosening slightly. The guests erupted into applause, offering their blessings. Little did they know, my heart was raging, screaming, I do not mean it. I wish to distance myself from you two protagonists. I wish to preserve my life and that of my parents. The exchange of rings, the kiss for the bride. Xin Yan's kiss was gentle, a mere brush against my lips, carrying the faint scent of aftershave, polite yet distant. I played the part of the perfect bride, demurely lowering my gaze, my heart devoid of any turmoil, even wishing to wipe my lips clean. Once the ceremony concluded, guests moved to the banquet hall. Beneath the grand crystal chandelier, the air was filled with laughter and clinking glasses. I clung to Xin Yan's arm, mechanically assuming the role of Mrs. Shen, receiving a barrage of blessings and envious glances. Champagne flowed endlessly, with toasts coming from all directions. Xin Yan shielded me from many drinks, his demeanor impeccable, gentle, and considerate. Anyone observing would commend him as a devoted husband. Only I knew the cold calculations hidden beneath his facade of tenderness. The book detailed his deep-seated disdain for me and the Jiang family. After enduring the banquet's conclusion, I felt as though my face would crack from smiling. Are you tired? Xin Yan leaned closer, his tone gentle. Shall I have the driver take you home to rest? There are still some elders I need to attend to. See how considerate he is. I could not have wished for anything more. All right, I nodded submissively, forcing a grateful smile. Don't overexert yourself. Once I settled into the Rolls-Royce, isolated from the din outside, I finally released a long, silent sigh. The first step had been completed. I was married. But this was merely a temporary measure, a smokescreen to numb everyone. From this moment forth, I would execute my plan to preserve my life and protect my family. The first step, physically distance myself from the male lead, Xin Yan. The new home was a luxurious duplex penthouse in the city center, boasting an extraordinary view. However, upon entering, I made a beeline for the largest master bedroom. Excellent, Xin Yan had few belongings, just a handful of clothes. I swiftly dragged my suitcase inside, then began moving my things into the guest bedroom next door. A walk-in closet? Too spacious, it could be his. I had an abundance of clothes, bags, and shoes that could overflow the guest room's closet. A king-sized bed? It is too soft. I fear he may find it difficult to adjust. Although the guest bedroom's bed is somewhat smaller, it boasts a top-tier mattress, which suits me perfectly. As for the vanity table, it is far too large and takes up too much space. The guest room's mirror is equipped with a built-in light, making it ideal. When Xin Yan returned, it was already late into the night. He carried a faint scent of alcohol and tobacco, and upon noticing the sparse belongings that remained in the master bedroom, he paused at the sight of the light seeping through the crack of the guest room door. Approaching the entrance, he knocked lightly. I opened the door. Clad in a fluffy bathrobe, a facial mask adorning my face, and a tablet in hand, the volume of my comedy show intentionally elevated. Is there something you need? I mumbled, my words muffled by the mask. Xin Yan's brow furrowed ever so slightly, as if he were unaccustomed to my domestic appearance. He glanced into the guest room, where my belongings were haphazardly strewn about. Are you sleeping here? He inquired, his voice devoid of discernible emotion. Yes, I replied, gesturing toward the master bedroom. That room is far too large. I feel apprehensive sleeping alone. Besides, you have so few belongings. Moving them is convenient. This room is just right, cozy. I adore it. I endeavored to sound both natural and innocent. Xin Yan scrutinized me in silence, his gaze deep, as if he were assessing something. I felt a shiver under his scrutiny, the skin beneath the mask tightening. After a few seconds, he spoke indifferently, "Suit yourself," before turning on his heel and retreating to the master bedroom. The door slammed shut behind him. I leaned against the guest room frame and exhaled a long sigh. That was close. However, I had successfully achieved separation. Keeping my distance from the male lead, the plan is in motion. Step 2. Actively avoid and never provoke the female lead, Suhi. I recalled from the book that my character, the wicked supporting role, first made her malevolent move during a high-level banquet at Shenyan's company, where I deliberately embarrassed Suhi, who was serving as a waitress, by accidentally spilling red wine on her, causing her to humiliate herself in public and intensifying Shenyan's disdain for me. Such a foolish plot must be nipped in the bud. A few days later, Shenyan indeed mentioned an important industry cocktail party at the company that required my presence as his companion. "Oh, sure," I readily agreed. Shenyan appeared somewhat taken aback by my promptness, casting a glance in my direction. That evening, I selected the most understated and conservative champagne-colored gown, pairing it with the smallest pearl earrings, striving to blend into the background. The cocktail party was held in a 5-star hotel banquet hall in the city center, filled with the fragrance of fine attire and the presence of social elites. As the central figure, Shenyan was immediately surrounded by various individuals upon entering, exchanging pleasantries. I clung to his arm, maintaining a standard smile, my face beginning to stiffen. My eyes scanned the room like radar. There she is! Near the corner by the beverage station, I spotted that familiar figure, Suhi. Dressed in the hotel's standard black waitress uniform, her slender form was impeccably groomed, her hair neatly pinned back. She was bowing her head, cautiously wiping the table, her movements somewhat awkward, resembling a quail that had strayed into Swan Lake. It is she, the female lead, who would ultimately tread upon the bones of the Jiang family and soar alongside Shenyan. My hand instinctively tightened around my clutch. Shenyan seemed to notice my rigidity and quietly asked, "What's wrong? Are you unwell?" "Not at all." I quickly relaxed my grip, forcing a smile. "I just feel a bit stifled. I'll freshen up in the restroom. I must distance myself from the battlefield." "All right," Shenyan nodded. I nearly fled in my haste, heading toward the restroom located at the opposite end of the room from Suhi. My high heels treaded silently upon the thick carpet. With my head lowered, I quickened my pace, internally repeating, "You cannot see me. You cannot see me. The wicked supporting role is offline. Please do not disturb." Suddenly, a muffled gasp escaped, followed by the crystalline shattering of glass. My heart dropped. No way. Hadn't I distanced myself enough? Turning to look, I realized the commotion did not originate from Suhi's direction, but rather from elsewhere. A young waitress, perhaps bumped by a hasty guest, had dropped a tray filled with champagne glasses, splattering wine and glass shards across the floor. Her face paled in fright as she stood frozen, and several gazes were drawn to the scene. Shenyan also noticed the disturbance, his brow furrowing slightly. At that moment, I saw Suhi hastening from her corner. She quickly crouched down, starting to gather the fragments, simultaneously soothing the terrified colleague. "Don't panic, Xiaoling. It's all right, I'll clean this up. You go fetch some new glasses and wine." Her voice was soft yet clear, imbued with an extraordinary calming presence. The waitress named Xiaoling glanced at her with gratitude before hurriedly scurrying away. Suhi remained focused, deftly clearing the debris with caution, ensuring that no shards would injure her hands. Shenyan's gaze traversed the crowd, landing on the slender figure calmly addressing the unexpected situation on the floor. His eyes reflected a level of focus I had never witnessed before, tinged with a hint of barely perceptible admiration. I felt a cold sneer rising within me.
Did you see that?
The halo of the female lead has activated. Resilience, kindness, composure in the face of adversity. What splendid qualities.
And what about me?
According to the original plot, I should now strut over, admonishing the waitress for the broken glasses, or, more maliciously, redirecting the blame onto Suhi, who merely happened to pass by.
Ha!
I turned away and walked into the restroom without a backward glance. Facing the large makeup mirror, I gazed at my meticulously made-up face, yet my eyes were hollow. Excellent. I had successfully evaded the first minor explosion of the plot. Although Shan Yan's gaze upon Su He irked me, especially since he was still ostensibly my husband, the thought of my survival plan for the family quickly dispelled that irritation. Just watch. It would be best if you fell for each other quickly, so I want to have to devise ways to bring you together later. Step 3. Observe discreetly, ensuring the plot does not deviate due to my presence. While I had resolved to steer clear of the battlefield, I could not afford to be blind to the circumstances. After all, the traps within the book were aimed at the Jiang family, and I needed to remain vigilant. Using the excuse of wanting to spend more time with my parents after marriage, I frequented the Jiang family villa. My father, Jiang Haichuan, is a quintessential Confucian businessman, steady, wise, and acutely sensitive to numbers. My mother, Lin Wei, possesses a more vivacious personality, enthusiastic about socializing and charity. Dad, how is the company faring lately? No troubles, I hope? I asked casually while peeling an apple for him. He looked up from the financial newspaper, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses with a smile. What troubles could there be? Everything is going smoothly. Why, is our little one starting to take an interest in company affairs? Just asking, I replied, handing him the peeled apple. I've been reading the news, and it seems the international economic situation has been a bit volatile. A minor fluctuation, nothing significant, he said. Taking a bite of the apple, his tone relaxed. Our Jiang family foundation is quite solid. As for you, now that you're married, focus more on Yan Yan. Don't always run back to your maternal home. Doesn't he look good? I just miss you, I pouted. Enough of that, my mother chimed in, bringing a fruit platter over and playfully swatting me. Yan Yan is busy. As his wife, you should be more considerate. By the way, next week is your father's birthday. We'll host a small gathering at home. Make sure to tell Yan he must find time to come. My father's birthday banquet. My heart tightened suddenly. The book had mentioned that one of the catalysts for the Jiang family's downfall occurred during a significant family gathering where my father was greatly angered. The specific details were unclear. Mom, can't we just have a simple family dinner for Dad's birthday? Let us not make it too elaborate, I suggested tentatively. Absolutely not. My mother immediately countered. Your father is turning 60. Moreover, many old friends and business partners have inquired. How can we not invite them? Don't worry. It won't be a large affair, just a few close acquaintances. My heart sank further. It seemed unavoidable. I would have to muster all my energy to face it. On the evening of the birthday banquet, the Jiang family villa was ablaze with lights. Indeed, the guests were all close family friends and important business partners. Shen Yan was also present, clad in a well-tailored dark gray suit, exuding an air of refined elegance. He arrived with a suitably thoughtful gift, uttered words of blessing, and conducted himself impeccably. Throughout the event, I resembled a highly vigilant groundhog, ears perked and eyes wide, observing every corner and every individual conversing with my father. As the banquet progressed, the atmosphere became increasingly convivial. My father was engaged in lively conversation with several old friends at a tea table in a side room. Holding a glass of juice, I feigned interest in the night view outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, while in reality, I was closely monitoring the happenings in that direction. A middle-aged man, dressed in a deep blue suit, with a somewhat portly build and an overly slick smile, approached with a wine glass in hand. I recognized him as Wang Defa, the owner of a significant downstream supplier for the Jiang Group, who usually ingratiated himself with my father. Director Jiang. Wishing you boundless fortune like the East Sea and longevity akin to the South Mountain. Wang Defa's voice boomed, laced with a fawning smile. I raise my glass to you. My father smiled and raised his teacup. Thank you, Mr. Wang. I appreciate your kind intentions, but I shall refrain from drinking. At my age, the doctor advises moderation.
Oh.
Director Jiang, your health is as robust as a dragon and a tiger. What's a glass of wine to you?
Wang Defa persisted,
leaning slightly closer to my father and lowering his voice. I've heard whispers that the land in the west of the city has caught the attention of Honyuan. They are quite reckless. I imagine you feel considerable pressure? The smile on my father's face dimmed a little, yet he remained composed. In business, one relies on their own capabilities. Indeed, indeed. Wang Defa nodded vigorously, his eyes darting. But Director Jiang, I've caught wind of something concerning Honyuan. It seems their connections with certain high-ups are rather extraordinary. They've declared their intent to secure that piece of land. Would you like me to make some introductions? I have connections. Mr. Wang. My father interrupted him, his tone now serious. The Jiang family conducts business based on integrity and strength. We do not dabble in underhanded dealings. Thank you for your good intentions, but we shall not pursue that. Wang Defa, thwarted, forced a smile that barely concealed his discomfort. Of course, Director Jiang. Your principles are commendable. I misspoke. Please do not take offense. He quickly downed his drink and skulked away. My father took a sip of tea, his brow slightly furrowed, clearly affected by the man's words. I hid behind the curtains, my palms clammy with sweat. The mention of Wang Defa and Hong Yuan's interest in the western city land struck like lightning in my mind. I recalled reading about it. The downfall of the Jiang family was intricately tied to the struggle over that very piece of land. Hong Yuan had ensnared them through despicable means, resulting in severe losses and legal troubles that led to the bank withdrawing loans, causing the funding chain to snap. And Wang Defa had been a pawn sent by Hong Yuan to probe and stir up trouble before the Jiang family's calamity. A crisis. This was undoubtedly a harbinger of an impending plot twist. A chill coursed up my spine. I must alert my father immediately. Taking a deep breath, I composed my expression and approached with my glass of juice. Dad, I said, flashing a sweet smile as I sat beside him. What were you discussing with Mr. Wang? You seem a bit displeased. Upon seeing me, my father's expression softened slightly as he patted my hand. It's nothing, just some business matters. You needn't worry. Dad, I carefully chose my words, striving to appear innocent yet concerned. I think I overheard Mr. Wang mention Hongyuan Group and something about the western city land. I recently heard Yan mention that Hongyuan has a rather unsavory reputation and operates rather unscrupulously. You must be cautious in your dealings with them. I shifted the blame onto Shenyan. After all, he was well informed, and my father would be more inclined to believe him. My father indeed paused for a moment, then appeared contemplative. Yan said the same? Yes. I nodded vigorously, wearing a look that proclaimed my husband's wisdom. He said Hongyuan's background is complex, and you should be wary not to fall into their trap. My father was silent for a few seconds before nodding. I understand. Yan is thoughtful. He gazed at me with a hint of appreciation, as if acknowledging my maturity in caring for him. I felt a slight sigh of relief. I hoped my warning would bear fruit. After the banquet concluded and all the guests had departed, my parents appeared a bit weary, yet in good spirits. As I linked arms with my mother on the way upstairs, I casually inquired, Mom, how is our family's financial situation? We aren't burdened with any substantial debts. Are we? My mother chuckled softly. What has gotten into you today, asking about the company? Don't worry, everything is fine. We recently secured a significant overseas deal. Our cash flow is quite ample. Your father is always prudent in his dealings. He won't take unnecessary risks. Prudent? Not take risks? In the book, the Jiang family fell victim to a trap that appeared stable but was, in fact, meticulously designed. Anxiety gnawed at me, but I couldn't voice it outright. Mom. I clung to her arm, feigning innocence. I'm just a bit worried. You see in the news how many large companies suddenly collapse. Dad is getting older. Shouldn't we scale back a bit? Let us not take on such large projects, as long as we have enough to get by. It's most important for our family to be safe. My mother was amused by my sudden display of maturity, pinching my cheek. Silly girl, have you really grown up? You're thinking of your parents now? Don't worry. Your father knows what he is doing. The Jiang family's ship is steady. Steady? The book clearly stated that it could capsize at any moment. I lay in bed, tossing and turning. I had warned them, but it seemed to have little effect. My parents' deep-rooted confidence and their disdain for the unseen forces at play filled me with a profound sense of helplessness. No, passive defense was not enough. I needed to take proactive measures to locate that critical trap and dismantle it before it detonated. Time was of the essence. Less than 2 months remained until the 3-month deadline indicated in the diary. My plan for survival and safeguarding my family had entered its most urgent phase. Feigning a desire to learn and assist my family, I persistently persuaded my father to grant me the honorary title of special assistant to the chairman at Jiang Group, allowing me unrestricted access to the company. I arrived at work punctually each day, my goals clear: the land in the western city and all projects related to Hongyuan Group. My father assumed I was merely whimsically seeking to spend more time with him and chuckled as he indulged me. Using my position, I immersed myself in the archives and project teams. I sifted through documents until my head spun and struggled to comprehend the specialized jargon. Yet I grasped a few key terms: the Western City Ecological New Town Project, Core Plot C07, Floor Area Ratio, construction requirements, deposit, and consortium bidding. I vaguely recalled that the book mentioned Hongyuan Group had exploited a seemingly insignificant loophole in the bidding rules to orchestrate a nefarious scheme. They initially inflated the land price, compelling the Jiang family to acquire it at an exorbitant price far beyond expectations. Then, just as the Jiang family had invested heavily to complete the preliminary planning and was on the verge of commencing construction, Hongyuan colluded with someone from a regulatory body to suddenly release a so-called internal document, citing a clause in the construction requirements mandating the free construction of a provincial-level demonstration standard school as part of the development. This clause had been vaguely articulated in the initial bidding documents, merely mentioning the need for educational facilities without specific standards. Hongyuan, leveraging its connections, later interpreted this to mean the standards had to be elevated to that of a provincial-level demonstration school, resulting in a cost discrepancy amounting to billions. Caught off guard, the Jiang family faced a dilemma. Either they capitulated and invested astronomical sums, which would tighten their funding chain to the breaking point, or they breached the contract, forfeiting their substantial deposit and planning costs while facing a crisis of credibility and hefty fines. Regardless of the path chosen, it would be a grievous wound. Meanwhile, Hongyuan had long been prepared to play the role of the opportunistic buyer, waiting to scoop up the spoils at a bargain price. What a treacherous scheme. I meticulously scoured every document pertaining to the bidding for Plot C07, tender files, contract drafts, and meeting minutes. Indeed, within the initial attachment of the pre-application for the grant of land use rights, there lies a single, ambiguous line regarding the construction requirements. The successful bidder must, in accordance with planning stipulations, gratuitously construct educational facilities of a corresponding scale, specific standards to be finalized upon approval. Moreover, tucked away in the corner of a subsequent supplementary risk assessment report submitted to my father, I found an inconspicuous document from a reputable consulting firm, recommendations for standards of educational facilities for provincial demonstration schools, which meticulously enumerated various exorbitant standards and estimated costs. This report was casually categorized as reference material, failing to garner the attention it warranted. My father's steadfastness led him to place undue faith in processes and documents, neglecting the hidden snares embedded within the minutiae. I had found it. My heart raced as I clutched that infernal reference document, akin to grasping a glowing ember, and dashed into my father's office.
Dad.
Look at this. I slammed the file onto his imposing mahogany desk, my voice trembling with excitement and anxiety. My father, engrossed in reviewing documents, was startled by my entrance, furrowing his brow. Wani? Why this frantic demeanor? What is it? The C07 plot in the Western City. The school construction. I pointed to the report. Dad. This standard is flawed. It's a trap. A pit dug by Hongyuan. My father picked up the report and glanced at it, his frown deepening. This? I am aware. It's merely an industry reference suggestion, not a mandatory standard. The final criteria will be delineated in the supplementary agreement of the land transfer contract, validated by the Planning Committee and the Education Bureau. We have been monitoring it closely and have found no anomalies. It's precisely the lack of anomalies that is alarming. I stammered in desperation. Hongyuan must have bribed someone. At the critical moment of signing the supplementary agreement, they will suddenly strike, clinging to this provincial standard. We will be at their mercy. My father set down the report, removed his glasses, and massaged his temples, regarding me with a gaze that mingled weariness and resignation. Wani, are you overly anxious lately? Where did you hear such baseless rumors? Business is akin to warfare. Competition is commonplace. Hongyuan is a rival, but it is not as sordid as you imagine. We have a professional team conducting risk assessments and legal oversight. We will not easily fall into traps.
Dad.
Trust me just this once. I was on the verge of tears. I have insider information. It is highly reliable. Hongyuan employs despicable tactics. This land is a hot potato. We should abandon it.
Or,
before signing the supplementary agreement, we must ensure that the construction standards are explicitly documented in black and white. There can be no ambiguity. My father stared at me in silence for a long time. The only sound in the office was my rapid breathing. Ultimately, he sighed, his tone softening somewhat, yet still imbued with undeniable authority. Wani, I understand you care about the company. However, business matters are not child's play. This land is pivotal to the group's strategic layout for the next 5 years. With substantial initial investments, we cannot simply relinquish it based on your intuition. Let the professionals handle the specialized matters. You are new to this and do not yet grasp many intricacies. Do not fret unnecessarily. He picked up the intercom. Secretary Zhang, please come in. Secretary Zhang soon entered. Take this report. My father indicated the document titled Recommendations for Standards of Educational Facilities for Provincial Demonstration Schools on the desk. Clearly annotate that it is only for industry trend reference and not a basis for decision-making, then distribute it to the C07 project team. Remind them to closely follow up with the Education Bureau and the Planning Committee for their final approval, ensuring we acquire a clear and executable official standard document prior to signing the supplementary agreement. Understood, Chairman Jiang, Secretary Zhang replied, taking the report and exiting. My father turned to me. Is this handling satisfactory? I will keep an eye on it. Now go attend to your tasks and do not overthink. I opened my mouth, watching my father don his glasses once more, his gaze returning to the documents. All my words lodged in my throat. He acknowledged the matter, but not sufficiently. He merely elevated the risk level of the report, increasing its visibility. Yet, we remained far from completely mitigating the risks. Hong Yuan's tactics would not be so simplistic. They would undoubtedly manipulate the final approval process. A wave of immense frustration and panic washed over me. I felt akin to someone forewarned of an impending tsunami, desperately shouting. Yet no one believed me. I could only watch helplessly as the wall of destruction slowly rose on the horizon. Days passed like a torturous eternity. I was like an ant on a hot pan, my nerves taut, vigilantly monitoring every development regarding the C07 project. The project team reported. Communication with the Education Bureau and the Planning Committee was smooth, and the construction standards were essentially aligned with those of typical municipal demonstration schools. There appeared to be no significant issues. Upon hearing the report, my father visibly relaxed, even smiling as he remarked, "See? I told you you were overthinking." My heart plummeted to the depths. Smooth sailing? The more seamless it appeared, the more it resembled the calm before the storm. Hong Yuan must be concealing a grand scheme. Sure enough, with merely 3 days remaining until the final signing deadline stipulated in the land transfer contract, a bombshell announcement detonated in the city like thunder. Vice Mayor Zhang, responsible for urban construction, was publicly accused of possessing a vast amount of unexplained wealth and of corrupt personal conduct. A working group from the Provincial Disciplinary Committee arrived overnight to take him away. Vice Mayor Zhang was one of the primary advocates and final decision-makers for the Eco-New City project in the Western City. More importantly, he had previously coordinated smoothly with Zhang's team regarding the conventional opinions on school construction standards. With his downfall, everything he had sanctioned instantly transformed into a quagmire of uncertainty and skepticism. The actions of Hong Yuan were astonishingly swift. Just the following morning after Vice Mayor Zhang's detention, a document with a forceful tone, bearing the red seal of the City Education Development Research Center, a semi-official entity with some clout, landed on the desks of Zhang's group and the City Planning Committee. The document's title boldly proclaimed, Expert Opinion on the Construction Standards for Educational Facilities in the Eco-New City C07 plot. The core content was a singular directive, based on the strategic positioning of the Eco-New City and projected future population influx. The schools constructed on this plot must meet provincial demonstration school standards, otherwise, they would fail to satisfy regional educational development needs. And the Planning Committee was advised to enforce this requirement. Attached to the document was a lengthy list of so-called expert signatures. This blow was swift and brutal. The timing was impeccable. It coincided perfectly with the downfall of the original decision-maker, amidst a climate of anxiety and with new leadership yet to be appointed. This document, masquerading as expert validation and driven by developmental necessity, abruptly pushed Zhang's group to the precipice. To accept it meant incurring an additional cost of several billion for construction, inevitably shattering the financial chain. To reject it would constitute a breach of contract, rendering the substantial deposits and investments worthless, and would lead to severe repercussions such as land reclamation, fines, and a tarnished reputation. Banks would immediately withdraw loans, and partners would hastily terminate contracts. Regardless of the path chosen, it was a dead end. When the news arrived, my father was presiding over an important quarterly meeting. As the secretary burst into the conference room, pale-faced, and placed the document before him, my father glanced at it, and his expression instantly turned ashen, his body swaying slightly.
Dad.
I screamed, rushing toward him. In the next moment, my father's tall figure collapsed backward. Chairman Jiang, quickly, call an ambulance. The conference room descended into chaos. In that moment, my world shattered. The ominous prediction in my diary coiled around my neck like a cold serpent, unable to withstand the blow. He suffers a cerebral hemorrhage and lies paralyzed. The hospital was replete with the acrid scent of disinfectant. The red light in the emergency room flickered ominously, sending waves of anxiety through me. When my mother rushed in after receiving the news, her makeup smeared, she clutched my hand, her nails digging into my flesh. "Wani, how is your father? How could he have been fine when he left this morning?" I was enveloped in an icy chill, rendered speechless as I fixated on the tightly shut door. Shun Yan also arrived, his pace hurried, brows furrowed in concern. He cast a glance at my mother and me, slumped on the bench, said nothing, and stepped aside to make a phone call, presumably to ascertain the situation. The interminable wait felt like an agony stretching out each second. At last, the red light extinguished. The doctor emerged, his expression grave. "Mr. Jiang has suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage with significant bleeding in a precarious location. The surgery has temporarily stabilized his vital signs, yet he remains in a perilous state. Moreover, due to the hemorrhage compressing the motor nerves, the likelihood of paralysis upon awakening is exceedingly high." My mother's vision blurred, and she fainted. Chaos ensued once more. I stood frozen, as if my soul had been siphoned away. The only remnants in my mind were the cold printed words from my diary, paralyzed in bed. What comes next? Liquidate all jewelry, ultimately meeting with a fatal accident while seeking a usurious loan.
No. Impossible.
I shuddered violently, forcibly extracting a sliver of clarity from the depths of profound sorrow and terror. My father had collapsed, yet he was not dead. My mother was still here. The Jiang family was not finished. I must endure. I must avert the impending tragedy. Now was not the time for tears. I wiped my face fiercely, my gaze hardening.
On Yuan. 20 defa.
And those predatory wolves circling like vultures. Do they wish to devour the Jiang family? In their dreams. I inhaled deeply, compelling myself to think rationally. 3 urgent matters required my immediate attention: preserve my father's life and ensure he receives the best treatment. Stabilize my mother's emotions. Under no circumstances must she resort to usury. Safeguard the Jiang family. Tackle the crisis regarding the Qingxi project. I approached Xinyan, who was still on the phone. He had just hung up, his countenance equally grim. "Xinyan," I began, my voice hoarse, yet unnaturally calm. "You are aware of my father's condition." Xinyan regarded me with a complex expression and nodded. "I need your assistance." I locked eyes with him, devoid of any plea, only a statement of intent. "First, contact the finest neurosurgeons. If no one in the country suffices, seek expertise abroad. Money is not an issue. The Jiang family can afford it. Second, help me keep my mother stable. Find someone to watch over her, never leaving her side. She must not leave the hospital, and absolutely must not engage in any borrowing." Shen Yan appeared taken aback by my directness and clarity. He fell silent for a few seconds, seemingly weighing his options. "Wani, the Qingxi project is quite troublesome," he attempted to interject. "The Qingxi project is my responsibility," I interjected, my tone resolute. "You need only assist me with these 2 matters. Consider it a favor owed to me, Jiang Wani." Shun Yan studied me intently, perhaps never having witnessed such a calm and even cold side of me before. Ultimately, he nodded. "All right. I will contact the experts. I will have Aunt Zhang come over to keep your mother company." "Thank you," I replied, the words devoid of warmth. After ensuring arrangements at the hospital, I turned to leave. "Where are you going?" Shun Yan called after me. "Back to the company." I did not look back. At the Jiang Group headquarters, a pall of gloom hung heavily. News of the chairman's sudden illness and coma, coupled with the dire straits of the Qingxi project, spread like a plague. Anxiety permeated the atmosphere. Numerous executives congregated in the conference room, whispering amongst themselves, their faces etched with worry and despair. I pushed open the door to the conference room and stepped inside. Instantly, all eyes were drawn to me.
Surprise, scepticisme, disdain.
And even a hint of barely concealed glee flickered across their faces. Miss Jiang? Someone hesitantly called out. Jiang Wani. I approached the chair at the head of the table, belonging to my father, but did not sit down. Instead, I leaned against the table, surveying each individual present. My father is ill and temporarily unable to preside over affairs. My voice, though soft, resonated with clarity in the silent room. Here, I was in command. A suppressed laugh escaped one of them. Miss Jiang. This is not the time for jokes. A vice president surnamedly frowned, speaking up. Do I appear to be jesting? I interrupted coldly, my gaze sharp as a blade. In my capacity as the sole heir to Chairman Jiang Haichuan and as the largest shareholder's proxy, I hereby declare that I will temporarily assume the chairman's duties and oversee all group affairs. If anyone has objections, you may leave now and proceed to the HR department to file for resignation. The room fell into a heavy silence. No one moved. No one dared to be the outlier at this moment, nor did anyone believe that I, the so-called frivolous young lady, could navigate the storm. Very well, I nodded.
Now,
Let's discuss the situation. For the Qingxi C07 plot, we face two options: increase investments to build a school to provincial standards, or breach the contract, losing our deposit and initial investments, and bear the consequences. A cacophony erupted. Increase investments? That will cost tens of billions. Where will we find such funds? Breach the contract? That is even worse. Over 10 billion gone. And we'll have to pay penalties. The banks will certainly withdraw their loans. We will be finished. It's that bunch from Hunyuan causing all this trouble. What good does it do to discuss this now? Vice Mayor Zhang has collapsed. There's no evidence. Silence. I slammed my hand on the table, the resounding noise silencing everyone. Increasing investments is not an option. Breaching the contract is a path to self-destruction. I declared decisively. We will choose a third path. A third path? Everyone stared in bewilderment. We will sue. I uttered those three words.
sue?
Who are we suing? The regulatory committee? Or that so-called education research center? How can we possibly win? Vice President Li exclaimed. Who said we were suing them? I scoffed. Picking up the official document containing the expert opinions, we will sue them. I pointed to the document's signature, City Education Development Research Center, a third-rate institution funded by the government, merely writing reports for the leadership, who granted them the authority to impose mandatory requirements on land transfer standards. What legal basis do they have? I surveyed the room. The land transfer contract from the regulatory committee holds legal validity until a supplementary agreement is signed. Everything is governed by the main contract and bidding documents. The main contract only stipulates the construction of educational facilities, and the standards are vague. This so-called expert opinion is neither a law nor a government regulation, nor a contractual agreement. It is utterly worthless. My voice rang out with conviction. Hunyuan thinks they can use this to cripple us? In their dreams. We will immediately file a lawsuit in court, seeking to declare this document from the research center invalid and applying for an injunction to prevent the regulatory committee from unilaterally raising the construction standards based on this document. Simultaneously, we will seek to preserve the execution of the land transfer contract. The conference room fell into an eerie silence. Everyone gazed at me as though I were a monster. Was this truly the Jiang Wani who only knew how to buy bags and pursue men? But miss, the director of the legal department hesitated. This type of administrative litigation takes a long time, and they have powerful backing. I know it takes time. I am also aware they have powerful allies. I fixed my gaze on him. What we need is time to muddy the waters. As long as the court accepts our case and issues an injunction during the trial period, the regulatory committee cannot use this invalid document to coerce us into signing a supplementary agreement. We will have breathing room and operational time. I turned to the financial director, Director Wang. Immediately audit all the Group's available cash, short-term liquid assets, and bank credit limits. I want the most accurate figures. Vice President Li, you are responsible for reassuring all suppliers and partners. Inform them that the Jiang Group is simply facing a minor inconvenience. The chairman is unwell, but the group is operating normally. Anyone who dares to take advantage of this situation will forever be barred from collaborating with the Jiang family. Public Relations Department. Draft a statement immediately, emphasizing that the Jiang Group operates in compliance with the law and expressing regret over the abnormal administrative interference encountered in the Qingxi project. While we have sought legal avenues for resolution, trusting the law to render a fair judgment, the wording must be firm, yet leave room for maneuver. I issued a series of clear directives. I stand at the head of the conference table, my back turned towards the expansive floor-to-ceiling windows. Beyond lies a panorama of the city's myriad lights, while within, the Jiang family South ship is perilously close to capsizing. My spine remains rigidly straight, yet my palms are clammy with cold sweat. I am acutely aware that this is merely a stopgap measure. The lawsuit may not yield victory, time may be insufficient, and the bank and creditors will not wait for me. Hongyuan's tactics are undoubtedly more insidious than this. Yet, this is the only strategy one can conceive to temporarily stabilize the situation. I must procure my father the time to awaken and grant the Jiang family a glimmer of hope. In the days that follow, I function like a tireless machine. By day, I preside over the company, grappling with a myriad of pressing issues, fielding inquiries from banks and creditors, pacifying restless hearts, and monitoring the lawsuit's progress. By night, I wait outside the ICU, staring through the glass at my father, who is ensconced in a web of tubes, while I clasp my mother's icy hand, offering her words of encouragement. Shunyan has honored his promise. He has enlisted a team of premier neurology experts from abroad for remote consultation, presenting the most advanced treatment plans. Aunt Zhang remains ever by my mother's side, alleviating some of my worries. However, I can sense the complexity in Shunyan's gaze towards me. There is inquiry, scrutiny, and perhaps a hint of unfamiliar apprehension. He likely cannot fathom how his once capricious and foolish ex-wife could suddenly unleash such astonishing vigor and determination. I have no time to ponder his thoughts. All my energy is devoted to racing against time and outmaneuvering the ravenous wolves of Hongyuan. The financial chain grows increasingly taut. Despite my best efforts to soothe the situation, panic spreads like wildfire. Several smaller suppliers have begun to halt deliveries, and the phone calls demanding payments come in relentless succession. The whispers from the bank grow ever more ominous. Although the lawsuit has successfully been filed, and the court has issued a preliminary injunction preventing the regulatory committee from mandating the Jiang family to elevate construction standards during litigation, thus temporarily safeguarding our land. I know this merely grants us a reprieve. Hongyuan will not relent easily. They are surely concocting a more lethal strike. One tempestuous night, I drag my weary body from the company back to the hospital. My mother, accompanied by Aunt Zhang, sleeps in the adjacent family lounge, her face still marred by tear stains. I approach the ICU, gazing through the glass. My father remains in a state of unconsciousness, though his vital signs have stabilized somewhat. "Dad, you must hold on," I whisper. "Your daughter is here, bearing the weight. The Jiang family will not fall." At that moment, my phone vibrates violently. It is a trusted confidant from the company, tasked with monitoring Hongyuan's movements. "President Jiang, we have a crisis." His voice trembles with fear. "Wang Defa, that scoundrel. Just moments ago, he was outside the Imperial Hotel, lamenting to several financial reporters. He claims that our Jiang family has long exploited these small suppliers, defaulting on payments. And now that we are on the brink of collapse, we threaten them against demanding payment. He even presented forged audio recordings and transfer records, alleging that our executives extorted massive kickbacks from him. He plans to report us to the disciplinary committee by tomorrow. My mind goes blank.
Wang Defa.
That despicable wretch has finally revealed his fangs. This is not merely a stab in the back commercially. It aims to crucify the Jiang family on the pillar of criminal disgrace. It is an act of sabotage. Once the charge of bribery is officially investigated, the Jiang family will be irreparably doomed. The bank will immediately freeze all assets. A chill envelopes me, as if I have plunged into an icy abyss. Hongyuan has dealt a cruel blow. This move has severed all escape routes for the Jiang family. Leaning against the frigid wall, I feel as though all strength has been drained from my body. Every effort, every struggle seems utterly futile against the overwhelming force of this narrative. Is there truly no way to escape? A profound despair descends upon me like the suffocating darkness outside, nearly crushing me. The cold wall presses against my back. And the urgent voice of my confidant continues to echo in my phone, but I can no longer comprehend it. Wang Defa's betrayal and fabricated evidence have sullied the Jiang family's name irreversibly. The bank will withdraw funds, assets will be frozen, and all collaborations will collapse instantaneously. My father remains in the ICU, his fate uncertain. My mother, I shudder violently.
No.
She must never know. Given her disposition, learning that our family is not only on the brink of bankruptcy, but also potentially facing criminal accusations would shatter her completely. She would exhaust every means to raise funds and smooth over connections. The scenarios laid out in that book, selling jewelry, borrowing at high interest, and meeting with a fatal accident, would unfold like a preordained script. I clench my fists tightly, my nails digging deeply into my palms, the sharp pain forcing my scattered thoughts into focus. I cannot panic. Jiangwani, you must not falter. At this moment, you are the only barrier against it all. Drawing a deep breath, I address my confidant on the other end of the line, my voice icy. Listen carefully. First, immediately contact all media closely aligned with us, especially those in finance. No matter the cost, suppress Wang Defa's performance tonight. There must be no reports released this evening. Second, notify the legal and technical departments to work overtime. Conduct a thorough investigation into Wang Defa and all companies associated with him. Examine his past tax records, contracts, and financial flows. Unearth any evidence of tax evasion, commercial bribery, or substandard practices. Before dawn, I want enough evidence to ensure he ends up behind bars. He wants to report us? Let us see who ends up reporting whom. Third, prepare countersuit materials. Sue Wang Defa for defamation, false accusations, and commercial fraud. The materials must be solid and swift. By tomorrow morning, I want the lawsuit filed in court. Fourth, reach out to the owners of our major suppliers with whom we have long-standing partnerships. I will call them personally. We must stabilize their support. Yes, President Jiang. I will take care of it immediately. My confidant's voice now carries a resolute determination. Ending the call, I swiftly pull up my contacts and begin dialing. 1, 2, 3. I lower my posture, yet my tone remains unwavering, appealing to their emotions and reason. Even hinting at Wang Defa's impending downfall and my unwavering determination that the Jiang family will not capitulate. Uncle Liu, how has my father treated you? If you don't trust others, can you not trust my father's character? President Zhao, at this crucial moment, if you lend a hand to the Jiang family, you will surely be well rewarded in the future. The friendship of providing timely assistance will be remembered for a lifetime by Jiangwani. Uncle Qian, can a man like Wang Defa be trusted? He is merely a pawn for Han Yuan. What promises have they made to you? If they can devour the Jiang family, they will turn on you without hesitation. Remember, when the lips are gone, the teeth are cold. One call after another. My voice transitions from a slight tremor to calm steadiness, even imbued with an undeniable force. Sweat soaks my back. Time slips by second, until the first light of dawn begins to break outside. My phone rings again. It is my confidant, President Jiang. We've managed to suppress it. Several major media outlets have agreed to hold off on reporting. Our team has acquired key evidence of Wang Defa's tax evasion and forged contracts. It's sufficient to initiate a case. The countersuit materials are also prepared. Moreover, President Zhao and Uncle Qian have relaxed their stance and promised to issue statements supporting us tomorrow. They will not halt supplies for now. It's working. I lean against the wall, exhaling a long, deep breath. My clothes are completely soaked with cold sweat, clinging to my skin. This night, I felt as though I was walking a tightrope over an abyss, each step fraught with peril. But for now, at least, I have yanked the Jiang family back from the precipice of ruin. The dawn is breaking. I drag my leaden legs toward the restroom to splash some water on my face. As I approach the quiet corner of the corridor, a deliberately lowered, tearful female voice reaches my ears. Yengo, I am truly terrified by the rumors circulating that the Jiang family is on the brink of collapse. Uncle Jiang is gravely ill, and how can one Ijia endure this alone? It is the voice of Su He. My steps abruptly halted, and I held my breath, pressing against the cold wall. Shun Yan's voice resonated, deeper than usual, tinged with a hint of fatigue. Do not worry, she will manage. Yet those people are so frightening. They are all berating Wan Yijie. Su-hee's voice quivered, as if overwhelmed by immense shock. Yen-ge, could you possibly lend a hand to Wan Yijie? I know how well Uncle Jiang treated you. Su-hee, Shunyan interjected, his tone somewhat complex. This is a matter concerning the Jiang family, and it is quite intricate. Moreover, Wan Yi is far more resilient than we assume. She may not require my assistance. However, Su-hee seemed poised to say more. All right, Shunyan's voice softened. You must be frightened. I will have someone escort you home to rest. Do not overthink it. Then came the sound of footsteps, indicating their departure. I leaned against the wall, my heart racing violently. Su-hee was here? How did she know about my father's condition? Did she come to plead on my behalf to Xinyan? This sensation is utterly bizarre. The female protagonist from the book, whom I tormented relentlessly, now worries for me and advocates to the male lead on my behalf? Is the plot amiss? Or is this merely a facet of her protagonist halo, showcasing her kindness and generosity? I shook my head, casting aside the chaotic thoughts. I cannot afford to ponder such matters now. The crisis has only temporarily subsided. It is far from resolved. Wang Defa, this malignant tumor, must be eradicated swiftly. At dawn, I personally oversaw the legal department. A lawsuit against Wang Defa for defamation, false accusations, and commercial fraud, alongside the ironclad evidence of his tax evasion, forgery, and commercial bribery that we had gathered overnight, was promptly submitted to the court, tax bureau, and industrial and commercial bureau. With the ferocity of a thunderstorm. Simultaneously, I instructed the public relations department to issue a statement with exceedingly stern language, denouncing Wang Defa's malicious slanders and fabrications, and announcing the initiation of legal proceedings to pursue all his legal liabilities. By 10 o'clock in the morning, a joint inspection team from the Tax Bureau and the Industrial and Commercial Bureau, acting on the tip-off, directly entered Wang Defa's company. Wang Defa likely never dreamed that the cold arrows he had just released would barely graze the Jiang family before they would rebound upon him with swifter and more severe repercussions. His company's accounts could not withstand scrutiny. By afternoon, rumors began to circulate that Wang Defa had been taken in for questioning. The carefully prepared strike from Honyuan Group was severed midair by my decisive actions. The news returned to the Jiang family, and the previously waning morale was revitalized. Those suppliers and partners who had wavered, upon witnessing the Jiang family's ruthless counterattack, momentarily suppressed their ulterior motives. The stance from the banks also seemed to subtly ease a bit. Seated in my father's office, I rubbed my throbbing temples. The sunlight outside was blinding. After several days of sleepless, high-intensity confrontations, both my body and spirit were stretched to their limits. The moment my taut nerves slackened just a little, an overwhelming fatigue surged over me like a tide. Yet I could not afford to rest. The lawsuit concerning the Qingxi project was still ongoing, and my father's medical expenses, as well as the company's daily operations, incurred massive daily expenditures. Money. The Jiang family's cash flow had become perilously tight. The thought of my mother's jewelry box suddenly surged uncontrollably to the forefront of my mind. The book described how she sold all her jewelry to raise funds. My heart clenched violently.
No.
Absolutely not. I immediately picked up the intercom to call the financial director, Director Wang. I need an inventory of all the jewelry and valuable items under my mother's name immediately. Not a single item is to be touched. Without my written consent, no one, not even my mother, is to move anything. Do you understand? Yes, President Jiang. Director Wang responded decisively. After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. Sell jewelry? Borrow from loan sharks? Those thoughts were out of the question. The Jiang family had not yet reached that point. Even if we were truly at the end of our rope, if anything were to be sold, it would be mine. I still owned several apartments, a few sports cars, and some mutual funds and stocks, though they were merely a drop in the bucket. They could tide us over for a while. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hesitating for a moment, I answered. Hello?
Liang Van Yi?
A young man's voice on the other end was somewhat familiar, laced with a hint of nonchalance. It's me, Zhou Yuan? I paused, recalling him as the youngest son of the Zhou family, notorious in the circle for his reckless behavior, a racing enthusiast with a literal family mind. We had exchanged pleasantries at various parties.
What did he want?
Is there something you need? I asked coldly. I heard you haven't been doing well lately? Zhou Yuan's voice carried a hint of probing. I'm not dead yet, I retorted bluntly. TSK, still as brash as ever. Zhou Yuan was unfazed. Need some cash? My heart skipped a beat. What did he mean? I heard your Qingxi project is stuck. In need of funds for circulation? Zhou Yuan got straight to the point. I happen to have some spare cash that I can lend you, and the interest is negotiable. A pie falling from the sky? No, it was a weasel wishing me a happy new year. The Zhou family was closely tied to Hunyuan Group. What are your terms? I asked coldly. Straightforward. Zhou Yuan laughed. It's nothing much. I just heard you have a 10 stake in the Lijing Bay Resort project. I quite fancy that place. How about you transfer it to me for some fun? Don't worry, I'll calculate it at market price and make adjustments accordingly. Lijing Bay. My heart sank. That was the Jiang family's only stable cash-generating asset with promising prospects. It was a treasure left to me by my father. Zhou Yuan, or rather Hunyuan behind him, had quite the appetite. Not only did they want the Qingxi land, but they also aimed to swallow the Jiang family's richest asset. Young Master Zhou, I scoffed. Your information is quite thorough. However, I intend to keep that stake in Lijing Bay for my retirement. Don't be so hasty in your rejection, Zhou Yuan said leisurely. Think it over? Now, apart from me, who would dare lend money to your Jiang family? The banks? Or those eagerly waiting to feast on your blood? The loan sharks? Loan sharks. Those 3 words pierced me like a needle. In the book, my mother was on her way to borrow from loan sharks. No need to worry, I replied icily. Even if I, Jiang Wanyi, were to sell my blood, I would never touch that. After saying this, I hung up the phone directly. My heart raced within my chest. Zhou Yuan's call served as an alarm bell, reminding me that the lurking enemies have never ceased their covetous gaze. The Jiang family situation was even more perilous than I had imagined. The funding chain could snap at any moment. What should I do? Sell my apartments? My sports cars? Mere drops in the bucket. Am I truly to borrow?
No.
A thought suddenly struck me like lightning. That diary. The one that foretold my tragic fate. It still had blank pages at the back. If it could foretell, could it also change things? This crazy notion, once ignited, could not be suppressed. Grasping at the last straw of hope, I dashed out of the office and raced back to the home I shared with Xinyan. Bursting into the guest room, I rummaged through the very bottom of the wardrobe to unearth the hardbound, gold-embossed diary that I had deliberately forgotten and hidden away. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I took a deep breath and abruptly opened it, flipping straight to the last few blank pages. Grabbing a pen, my hand shook violently as the ink spread into a blot on the paper. I struggled to steady my wrist, mustering all my strength, and began to write. Word by word, on that blank page, the Jiang Group has secured crucial funding, navigating through the crisis. Upon completing the entry, I held my breath, fixating on the page before me. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. No change. The black ink lay there, quietly mocking me, as if to say my hopes were misplaced. Was it truly futile? This diary, merely a herald of events, incapable of effecting change? A wave of immense disappointment and deeper despair engulfed me in an instant. I slumped onto the cold floor, leaning against the frigid edge of the bed, the diary slipping from my grasp. All strength had evaporated. Was there truly no way out? In that moment, a buzzing sound interrupted my thoughts. My phone vibrated furiously in my pocket. Numbly, I retrieved it. The name dancing across the screen caused my heart to skip a beat. It was Attorney Chen, Shunyan's private lawyer. What could he possibly want with me? I swiped to answer, my voice dry. Attorney Chen?
Ms. Jiang.
Attorney Chen's voice brimmed with incredulous excitement and urgency. I have magnificent news. Monumental news. Good news? I echoed, skepticism lacing my tone. What could possibly be good news for me now? Mr. Shin has just established a supplemental will. He has bequeathed his shares in Dingfeng Venture Capital Fund 15 to you, as a blessing for your union with Mr. Shin. His voice trembled with fervor. The document has just been notarized and holds legal weight. Dingfeng Venture Capital. A 15 stake. My mind buzzed, blanking out. Dingfeng Venture Capital was a prominent private equity fund established by the Shun patriarch alongside several old friends, investing in countless high-quality projects, boasting a robust cash flow, and representing the very core of the Shun family's vast wealth. The value of a 15 stake. How much was it? My voice wavered as I asked. Attorney Chen quoted an astronomical figure based on the last quarter's net asset value. That number struck me like a thunderclap, shattering the heavy gloom that had enveloped me. It was sufficient, completely enough to bridge the Jiang family's current financial gap. In fact, it was more than ample. Attorney Chen continued, Mr. Shen mentioned he has been keeping an eye on you. He sees in your recent endeavors the reflection of Jiang Xiong, my father, from years past. This is his way of supporting his juniors. Mr. Shen, the elderly man who usually exuded an air of authority and rarely spoke, particularly to me, his former granddaughter-in-law. A wave of euphoric relief, mingled with an indescribable complexity of emotions, crashed through my frayed nerves. Tears surged forth unbidden, not from sorrow, but from the release of pent-up pressure, from the fear of narrowly escaping disaster, and from a bittersweet sense of recognition. I collapsed onto the floor, leaning against the bed, clutching my phone, weeping uncontrollably. The financial dilemma had been resolved. The Jiang family had, for the time being, been saved. I trembled as I retrieved the diary that had slipped to the ground. I turned to the page where I had just inscribed, the Jiang Group has secured crucial funding. Navigating through the crisis. The black ink still lay there unmoved. Yet, in a daze, I fancied I saw those words flicker ever so slightly. Was it merely a figment of my imagination? Or had it truly manifested? I squeezed my eyes shut and opened them again. The script remained unchanged. However, in some corner of my heart, it felt as if something had quietly shifted. Regardless of the circumstances, I had overcome this hurdle. My father remained in a coma, but the doctors asserted that his condition was improving. My mother, though weary, maintained a semblance of stability. The Jiang family's vessel, though battered, had not sunk and continued to navigate through turbulent waters. As for Shun Yan and I, since that night when I overheard his conversation with Su He, we had not exchanged a single word. He had facilitated the connection with specialists, arranged care for my mother, and indirectly, through his grandfather, provided me with the most critical support. Yet an invisible, heavy wall of ice seemed to separate us. I was preoccupied with saving the Jiang family, while he was likely absorbed in his own pursuits and attending to Su He's feelings. It mattered little to me now. After all I had endured, my obsession with Shun Yan had dissipated into thin air. I only wished for my father to awaken, for the Jiang family to thrive, and to distance myself as far as possible from the romantic entanglement of those two. However, fate seemed intent on further testing me. On the third day after my father had been moved from the ICU to a VIP ward, an even more shocking piece of news arrived. A trusted confidant, tasked with monitoring Honyuan's movements, reported to me in an odd tone. President Jiang, it seems that Ms. Su He has encountered an accident. An accident? My heart lurched. What sort of accident? It appears to be a car accident. She was struck by an electric bike that ran a red light at an intersection near the company. She lost consciousness on the spot and was taken to the hospital.
Un car accident?
In the narrative, it was my mother who suffered such a fate. Now it was Su He? Had the plot twisted? Was it serious? Which hospital? I inquired immediately. City Hospital 1, just nearby. She sustained significant injuries, a fractured leg, and a mild concussion. She has yet to regain consciousness. I ended the call, my emotions in turmoil. Su He had been in an accident. As the protagonist of the story, she should be safe from life-threatening peril, right? But did Shanya know? I hesitated for a moment before dialing his number. After several rings, he finally answered, his voice heavy with fatigue and hoarseness. Hello? It's me. I paused, then asked, I heard Su He was in an accident? There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Yes. Shun Yan's voice was low, just out of surgery, and still unconscious. Is it serious? A compound fracture in her left calf, mild concussion. Shun Yan's tone was suppressed, laden with emotion. It will take quite some time to recover. A compound fracture? For a young girl, that was a significant blow. Which hospital? Do you need assistance? I asked instinctively, feeling somewhat insincere. No need. Shun Yan's refusal was abrupt. His tone almost cold and distant. I'll handle it. I was momentarily at a loss for words. Is there anything else? He inquired.
No.
Take care of yourself. I replied, my voice flat. He acknowledged softly before hanging up. As I listened to the dial tone, confusion washed over me. Shen Yan's demeanor was peculiar. He should have been deeply concerned and anxious about Su He's injury. Yet, during the call, besides fatigue, I sensed an undercurrent of irritation, perhaps even a hint of resentment. Who was he resenting? The reckless driver? Fate? Or perhaps me? The thought felt absurd and chilling. What did it have to do with me? Shaking my head, I dismissed those futile reflections. Though Su He's injury was unexpected, it might not be a bad thing for me. At the very least, Shen Yan's attention would be diverted by her, leaving him with little time to tend to me, his former wife. I could concentrate on managing the affairs of the Jiang family. Days later, my father's condition had stabilized significantly, though he had not yet awakened. The doctors reported promising signs of recovery. My mother's spirits had improved as well, spending most of her time in the ward with my father. I seized the opportunity to return to the company and address the backlog of work. The influx of substantial funds from Dingfeng Venture Capital acted as a resounding lifeline, allowing the Jiang family to regain its footing. The bank's stance had turned a full 180 degrees, proactively offering to extend loans. Suppliers had become accommodating. The lawsuit regarding the Qingxi project began to tilt in our favor as we possessed crucial evidence, recordings of internal collusion provided by Wang Defa, and proof of procedural illegality regarding the research center's documents. Everything seemed to be aligning toward a positive outcome. In the evening, having finalized the last document, I prepared to head to the hospital. Just as I stepped out of the elevator, my phone rang. It was Shen Yan. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello? Where are you? Shen Yan's voice sounded unusually weary, imbued with a hint of despondency. Beneath the company building, he prepared to go to the hospital.
Can we meet?
He inquired, his tone deep and hoarse. I'm at the Cloud Top Cafe. The Cloud Top Cafe, situated on the uppermost floor of the adjacent building, boasts a splendid ambience that we used to frequent on occasion. His tone conveyed an unsettling disquiet. Let us discuss it over the phone, I replied, reluctant to meet him in private. It concerns Su He, Shen Yan uttered after a few seconds of silence, his words heavy with implication.
Sue?
My heart tightened. Had her condition deteriorated? What has happened? Let us talk in person, Shen Yan insisted. It's important. His tone left me no room to refuse.
Fine.
10 minutes later, I found myself seated by the window at the cloud top, the sunset casting a warm golden hue over the city. Shen Yan sat across from me, looking severely haggard. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble adorning his chin, and an aura of profound exhaustion and unspoken oppression enveloped him. About Su He I ventured cautiously. Her leg may not be salvageable. Shen Yan's voice was dry, akin to sandpaper. I stared at him in shock. What? Wasn't it a comminuted fracture? The surgery was very successful, he interrupted, gazing vacantly out the window, but the post-operative infection is severe. He continued, the doctor mentioned that the best outcome would be amputation. Amputation? I gasped, covering my mouth in disbelief. The pure and kind-hearted protagonist, Su He, from the books, was to lose a limb? This plot twist was utterly outrageous. How could it be this serious? I struggled to comprehend. I don't know. Shen Yan shook his head, running his fingers through his hair in distress. The doctor said her condition is somewhat unique. She has a poor reaction to antibiotics, and they cannot control the infection. Suddenly, he looked up, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me with a complex intensity, a mix of anguish, despair, and an unsettling cold scrutiny. Jiang Wani, he rasped, tell me, is there any connection between Su He's accident and you?
Buzz.
My mind felt as though it had been struck by a heavy hammer. Blood surged to my head.
Shen Yan, what do you mean by that?
I leapt to my feet, my voice rising in extreme anger and disbelief. Do you suspect me? The few patrons in the cafe turned their heads in surprise. Shen Yan also stood, his gaze as sharp as a knife cutting through the air between us. It happened that day, at that intersection. He pressed, his voice taut with suppressed fury. Someone saw your car, right behind hers. My car? I struggled to recall that day. I did indeed drive from the office that afternoon, passing through that very intersection on my way to the hospital. Yes, I did pass through. I trembled with rage. But I didn't see Su He. I would never have hit her. Shen Yan, are you out of your mind? What motive would I have to hit her? Motive? Shen Yan sneered, a cruel smile twisting his lips. Jiang Wani, you have changed. You've become someone I no longer recognize. For the Jiang family, you do anything, wouldn't you? He continued, Sue, he has always felt guilty, believing she destroyed our marriage. She even defended you in front of me. But what about you? He stepped closer, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. You hate her, don't you? You resent her for stealing my attention? For making my grandfather regard you with favor?
So,
You sought revenge on her, didn't you? You're talking nonsense. My anger reached its peak, and I grasped the water glass on the table, ready to hurl it at him. Yet, my remaining sanity kept my grip tight, my fingertips turning white.
Shunyan,
Listen to me. I ground out through clenched teeth. Jiangwani, have changed. I am fighting tooth and nail for the Jiang family. But I would never stoop so low as to run someone down, especially someone with whom I have no enmity. Don't believe me?
fine.
Call the police. Review the surveillance. Check the dashcam. Go ahead. My fury and forthrightness seemed to diminish the madness in Shen Yan's eyes. He looked at me, his gaze wrestling with anguish and doubt.
Then why?
His voice dropped, laden with deep fatigue and confusion. Why her? Why now? How should I know? I shouted back, my chest heaving. Shenyan, I tell you, I, Jiangwani, have no time or interest in your and Su He's troublesome affairs. I'd rather distance myself from you both. Believe it or not. With that, I grabbed my bag and turned to leave. If I stayed a moment longer, I feared I would truly lose control and smash the glass against his face. Upon reaching the door, I halted, not looking back, and coldly declared, Also, Shenyan, let us get a divorce. I'll have my lawyer prepare the agreement and send it to you promptly. From now on, bridges will be bridges and roads will be roads. I flung the door open and strode out. The door closed behind me, shutting out Shen Yan's complicated gaze. The wind outside was a tad chilly. Leaning against the cold wall, I realized I was trembling all over, not from fear, but from anger, the injustice of being misunderstood, and an overwhelming sense of desolation. Was this truly the world of books? No matter how I struggled or sought to escape, the plots, the misunderstandings, and the melodramatic conflicts would still find a way to ensnare me? Was Su He's accident truly an accident? Or was it the force of a narrative seeking to correct itself? I lifted my gaze to the sun, slowly sinking into the city skyline. The orange-red light bore a cruel gentleness. No, I couldn't succumb. My father had yet to awaken. The Jiang family had not fully escaped peril. I, Jiangwani, would never concede defeat. After the unpleasant encounter with Shan Yan at the cafe, I returned directly to the hospital. My mother, startled by my pale face, exclaimed, Wani, what happened? Did something go wrong at the company? It's nothing, Mom, I forced a smile, just a bit tired. I couldn't reveal to her Shen Yan's outrageous words. In the days that followed, I juggled company affairs while caring for my parents and simultaneously had my lawyer start drafting the divorce agreement. Since that day, Shen Yan had not attempted to contact me again. However, I heard that Su He's condition had stabilized, the infection was under control, but ultimately, they could not save her leg, and she underwent an amputation. This news weighed heavily on my heart, though I harbored no fondness for her. The loss of a limb for such a young girl was an insurmountable blow. Fate seemed overly cruel to her. The narrative from the books had completely warped. My plan for survival and family preservation appeared to have succeeded, yet it also seemed to usher in more unforeseen variables. One afternoon, half a month later, I accompanied my father for hyperbaric oxygen therapy at the hospital. My phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar local number. I stepped into the corridor to answer. Hello? Is this Jiangwani? A calm, even somewhat frail voice responded from the other end. I paused, recognizing the voice.
Sue?
I queried hesitantly. It's me. Her voice was faint. Can we meet?
Right now. Meet you?
I furrowed my brow. What is the matter? It's very important. Her tone carried an unwavering insistence. About you, me, and this world. My heart raced suddenly. This world? What does she know? Where are you? At the City First Hospital. On the rooftop of the inpatient department. I'll wait for you. After that, she hung up. The rooftop? My heart leapt into my throat. In the story, the fate of the malicious female antagonist, Jiangwani, culminated in a desperate leap from the rooftop. What was Su He planning by inviting me there? A chill crept up my spine. Should I go? Or should I not? Going might be dangerous, but not going made it impossible to ignore the implications of her words. I wrestled with the decision for a few seconds before gritting my teeth. I'll go. Under the bright sunlight, atop the hospital rooftop. What could a recently amputated patient like her possibly do to me? I was eager to discover what her intentions were. I informed my mother of an urgent matter at work and hastily departed from the hospital, driving straight to the first municipal hospital. After ascending to the top floor via the elevator, I pushed open the heavy fire door and stepped onto the expansive rooftop. The evening breeze was strong, carrying the crispness of early autumn, causing my clothes to flutter. It was then that I spotted Soo-hee. She sat in a wheelchair, her back facing me, gazing at the city's dusky skyline. Dressed in an oversized hospital gown, the left leg of her pants hung emptily. Her silhouette appeared so frail that a mere gust of wind could whisk her away. Upon hearing my footsteps, she slowly turned her wheelchair towards me. The sight of her face took me by surprise. She had lost considerable weight, her complexion pale to the point of translucence, yet her eyes shone with an extraordinary brightness. Imbued with a clarity that exuded a profound tranquility, devoid of her former timidity and hesitation. This gaze was unrecognizable. "You've come," she said softly, her voice barely audible against the wind. "What do you want?" I stood several meters away, maintaining my guard. Soo-hee did not immediately respond. Instead, she maneuvered her wheelchair closer to the low wall at the edge of the rooftop. My heart raced, rising to my throat.
Sue.
"What are you doing?" I exclaimed, instinctively taking a couple of steps forward. She halted beside the low wall, her hand resting against the cold surface, not looking at me. Her gaze directed towards the distant skyline and the serpentine flow of traffic. "Jongwani," she suddenly spoke, her tone eerily calm. "Do you know why I had the accident?" "How would I know?" I frowned. She turned her head to meet my eyes, a peculiar, almost melancholic smile gracing her lips. "Because that day I saw." "Saw what?" "I saw you." Her eyes sharpened. "I saw you driving, following closely behind me." My heart sank. Again with this. "I told you. I was merely passing by. I didn't see you at all. It was impossible." "No," Soo-hee interjected, shaking her head gently. "I'm not saying you hit me. I'm saying I saw you." Then, an unexpected voice echoed in my mind. Voice. I was taken aback. A cold, mechanical voice. Soo-hee's gaze turned somewhat vacant, as if recalling a distant memory. It said it detected a key character in the narrative, the malevolent supporting character Jongwani, whose actions severely deviated from the established plot, threatening the stability of the timeline. Initiating a correction program.
Boom.
My mind felt as if it had been shattered by an atomic bomb. Key character, malevolent supporting character, behavioral deviation, correction program. Those words. What did you just say? My voice trembled. Soo-hee looked at me, her expression a complex tapestry of pity, sorrow, and perhaps a hint of shared suffering. "Jongwani, you've known all along, haven't you? That we exist within a book? That you are the tragically fated malevolent supporting character? And I am the protagonist who treads upon your remains to attain happiness?" My body swayed, nearly losing my balance. She truly understood. So that accident. I struggled to articulate, my throat tightening. It was a correction, Soo-hee stated calmly, as if discussing something unrelated to herself. That voice, I refer to it as the system. It said that because I, as the protagonist, felt undeserved sympathy and guilt for you, the malevolent supporting character, and even attempted to influence the male lead, Shen-yen, towards you, it severely disrupted the narrative's trajectory. Therefore, it needed to rectify me, using pain to remind me of my identity and mission. She gestured towards the empty pant leg. It succeeded. Her voice bore little emotion. "I lost a leg, and I am completely awake now." I was utterly astounded. A system? Correction? Because Soo-hee felt sympathy for me? Then why did you summon me today? I watched her warily, glancing at the rooftop's edge. "Don't be alarmed." Soo-hee managed a strained smile, one that was more sorrowful than joyful. "I'm not here to seek mutual destruction." The system vanished after I awoke from the amputation surgery. Perhaps it determined that I, as the protagonist, was now flawed and lost my value? Or perhaps its correction was complete. She stared into the distance, her gaze becoming a bit unfocused. "I sought you to reveal the truth." She turned back, her eyes refocusing on my face, "and I wish to ask you for a favor." "What favor?"
Help me.
Soo-hee's demeanor grew exceedingly earnest. "Help me leave Shen-yen." I was once again taken aback. Leave Shunyan?
Why?
ISNT here male lead? Male lead? He laughed, her smile laced with irony and bitterness. Jiangwani, do you still not comprehend? We are all marionettes, predetermined by fate. My kindness, resilience, and love for the male lead are all scripted. I am like an NPC with a set path, destined to fall in love with Shunyan, be tormented by you, and ultimately find redemption and happiness through his vengeance against the Jiang family. Her emotions surged, her chest rising and falling. But why should I? Why must I endure all of this? Why must I lose my leg, just to fulfill that cursed, preordained love and happiness? After the accident, the system vanished. It felt as though I had awoken from a prolonged nightmare. Her gaze regained that peculiar clarity. I watched Shunyan at my bedside, tormented with guilt, meticulously caring for me. I saw him directing his anger towards you, questioning you, and I felt nothing. No love, no gratitude, not even hatred. She recounted this calmly, as if observing a play in which she had no part. I know, according to the narrative, I should be moved, I should forgive him. I should share a tender bond with him, but I cannot. She lifted her head, her gaze piercing into mine. Jiangwani, you have broken free from your plot. Though the cost was great, you achieved it. Now, I too wish to break free from mine. I no longer want to be the protagonist who must love Shunyan. I want to leave him, to escape this scripted tale. I implore you, help me. The rooftop wind tousled her hair. She sat in her wheelchair, tilting her head to look at me, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. I gazed at her pale, emaciated face, at her empty pant leg, and at the flame of defiance against destiny flickering in her eyes. It was as if I saw another version of myself, the one struggling in despair, fighting with all its might to rewrite the ending. We are both prisoners. She had merely awakened from a beautifully scripted dream, painfully and abruptly. How do you want me to help you? I heard my own voice emerge. Suhee's eyes sparkled with hope, as if seizing a lifeline. Help me leave this place, to a location where no one knows me, she urged. Shunyan, he is filled with guilt towards me, never leaving my side. I can't take it anymore. If this continues, I fear I will lose my sanity. I own a small apartment in the northern part of the city, quiet and unknown to Shunyan. You could stay there for now, I pondered.
No.
He immediately shook her head. He will find me quickly. His possessiveness is intense, especially in this situation. That much was true. The Shunyan in the book exhibited an almost obsessive protectiveness and possessiveness towards Suhee. What about going abroad? I tentatively suggested. Suhee lowered her head, her voice dwindling. I have no money. My family is quite ordinary. Moreover, my leg requires further treatment and rehabilitation, which will also demand funds. Money. A pressing reality. I regarded her, silent for a few seconds. I can lend you some money. I finally spoke, consider it a debt. You can repay me when you are able. Suhee abruptly lifted her head, disbelief flooding her features, her eyes glistening with moisture. Why, you are truly willing to help me? Not helping you. I averted my gaze, looking towards the city lights gradually illuminating the horizon. I am helping myself. Helping yourself? She appeared perplexed. I assisted you in departing from Shunyan, extricating both of us from this turbulent narrative. I spoke softly, simultaneously liberating myself from the shackles of the past. With your departure, Shunyan's attention would naturally shift, allowing us to divorce with a clean slate. The Jiang family could finally sever ties with the Shin family. We might be regarded as mutually beneficial in this arrangement, I concluded.
Me.
Tears cascading down her cheeks, yet she smiled, nodding vigorously. All right. Mutual benefit. Thank you. Thank you, Jiangwani. Within her smile were tears and pain, but more so, a sense of relief and the hope of rebirth. A week later, under meticulous arrangements, Suhee vanished. She left behind a letter for Shunyan, expressing gratitude for his care, but lamenting that the loss of her leg had inflicted a profound blow. She needed solitude to start anew in an unfamiliar place, and requested that he not seek her out. Shunyan, as expected, became unhinged. He mobilized every connection at his disposal, frantically searching for Suhee, yet to no avail. Suhee was discreetly transported by my associates to a charming coastal town in the south, where the climate was pleasant and medical facilities commendable. She was admitted to a private rehabilitation center, with funds I had set aside to support her living and recovery for several years. Unable to locate Soo-hee, Shen-yen grew increasingly sullen and irritable. He seemed to direct all his fury and frustration toward me. It was during this tumultuous time that my divorce agreement was presented to him. The outcome was predictable. He refused to sign. Not only did he decline, but he also proclaimed that I was responsible for Soo-hee's disappearance. In an instant, rumors began to circulate within our circle. Whispers suggested that Jiang Wani, consumed by jealousy, had driven Soo-hee away, and that Shen Xiao was incensed, prepared to sever all ties with the Jiang family. Though these rumors had little impact on the Jiang family's business, after all, the most difficult times had passed. They were bothersome, akin to persistent flies. I knew that a definitive resolution was necessary between Shen-yen and myself. Otherwise, the repercussions would be endless. I took the initiative to arrange a meeting with Shen-yen, choosing the same cloud-topped cafe where he had once interrogated me about Soo-hee. In that same spot, beneath the same setting sun, Shen-yen arrived, looking more haggard than before, his gaze dark and filled with simmering rage. "Jiang Wani, where have you hidden Soo-hee?" he demanded as soon as he sat down, his tone aggressive. "I have not hidden her," I replied calmly, meeting his gaze. "She is an adult, entitled to choose the life she desires."
Desires?
Shen-yen scoffed, his eyes sharp as daggers. "She has lost a leg. Where can she possibly go? What life can she lead? Jiang Wani, do not play games with me. Did you force her to leave? Did you threaten her?" With a sigh, I expressed my profound weariness. "In your eyes, am I truly so despicable? Would I threaten a girl who has just lost her leg merely to tear you two apart? Isn't that the case?" Shen-yen slammed his hand on the table, drawing the attention of those around us. "Since the day of our wedding, you changed. You plotted and schemed. You exploited my grandfather's sympathy to secure funds and stabilize the Jiang family. Now, I suspect you have used some underhanded method to drive Soo-hee away. Jiang Wani, what is your heart made of?" His accusation struck me like dull blades, but I no longer felt pain. "Shen-yen," I said, locking eyes with his furious glare. "Let us divorce." "Ridiculous." Shen-yen roared. "You will not leave until Soo-hee is found." "This marriage is destined to end," I asserted firmly. "Soo-hee's departure has nothing to do with me, yet it undeniably proves one thing." "And what is that?" "That she never wished to remain by your side," I stated coolly. Shen-yen awakened to reality. "Do you love Soo-hee, or is it merely possessiveness? Is she simply the protagonist you believe you must have, just as you once deemed it necessary to marry me, the villainous supporting character?" "Protagonist? Supporting character? What nonsense are you spouting?" Shen-yen frowned, clearly perplexed by my metaphor. "Your confusion is inconsequential," I shook my head. "You need only understand that a forcibly twisted fruit is never sweet. Soo-hee does not wish to be with you. She chose to leave. And as for me, I have never loved you. This marriage has always been a mistake, a grotesque byproduct of the intertwined interests of the Jiang and Shen families. It is time to conclude this." I withdrew the revised divorce agreement from my bag and slid it across the table towards him. "Sign it. The division of assets is clear. I only seek what is rightfully mine. I will gradually disentangle the cooperative projects between the Jiang and Shen families, ensuring we owe each other nothing." Shen-yen glared intently at the document, then suddenly lifted his gaze to meet mine, his expression a mixture of fury, resentment, and a touch of embarrassment at being exposed. "Jiang Wani, what do you truly want?" His voice lowered, laced with a defeated rasp. "I desire freedom," I answered calmly. "I wish for the Jiang family to be at peace. I want to distance myself from you." "Distance from us?" Shen-yen pondered these words, his expression turning somewhat bewildered. Indeed, I rose from my seat. "Shen-yen, let Soo-hee go, and free yourself as well. Sign the agreement, and have your lawyer contact me." With that, I turned away, clutching my bag, and departed without looking back. This time, I did not glance over my shoulder. I understood that I and Shen-yen, along with the twisted past portrayed in this narrative, had finally reached an end. A month later, under the covert pressure from old Master Shen, who was evidently displeased with Shen-yen's obsession and entanglement, Shen-yen ultimately signed the divorce agreement. The moment I received the divorce certificate, it felt as though I had shed an immense burden. As I exited the Civil Affairs Bureau, The sunlight was somewhat blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. "Wani," a familiar and excited voice called out. I turned towards the sound. There stood my mother, supporting a figure who was standing upright beneath the shade of a nearby tree, waving vigorously at me. That figure, though still somewhat frail and requiring support, stood tall. It was my father,
Zhang Haichuan.
He had awakened, and he could stand. Father. Tears cascaded down my cheeks as I, like a child, ran towards him without a second thought, throwing myself into his embrace. "Whoa, slow down." My father chuckled, his voice still somewhat hoarse, but filled with strength. He extended his large hand, just as he had in my childhood, securely catching me and gently patting my back. "Father, you've finally awakened. You terrified me," I sobbed, releasing all the grievances, fears, pressures, and exhaustion I had endured during this time. "Silly girl," my father's voice quivered with emotion. "I know you have suffered. It was my inadequacy." "No, Father, you awakening is enough. That is all that matters." I clung to him tightly, savoring the warmth and reassurance of his return. My mother stood by, wiping her tears yet wearing a smile of relief. All right, it's a joyous day. Why are you crying?" "Your father is recovering well. The doctor said with proper rehabilitation, he'll be walking without issue. Now, let us go home. I'll make your favorite sweet and sour ribs." "Yes, home," I exclaimed, my tears turning to laughter. Home. My home still existed. 6 months later, the lawsuit regarding the West City project concluded with a complete victory for the Jiang Group. The court deemed the expert opinion invalid, and the regulatory committee ultimately signed a supplementary agreement with the Jiang family, adhering to the standard protocols for municipal demonstration schools. The project advanced smoothly. Hongyuan Group's attempts to sabotage us backfired, tarnishing their reputation and resulting in the downfall of Wang Defa, who received a 7-year sentence. Though the Jiang Group had sustained significant damage under my leadership, we decisively sold off several non-core assets to recover funds, refocusing on our primary business. Coupled with a continued influx of capital from Dingfeng Ventures, we finally regained our momentum and returned to the right path. My father was recovering remarkably. Although he walked a bit slowly, he had returned to the company to oversee operations and support me. I, on the other hand, had taken a step back, assuming a nominal position. After all we had been through, I found little interest in wielding control over a commercial empire. With the remaining savings under my name, along with the proceeds from selling a few sports cars, I acquired a quaint storefront in an artistic enclave on the western side of the city, a haven amidst the hustle and bustle. The decor embodies a minimalist, natural wood aesthetic that I cherish, with expansive floor-to-ceiling windows allowing sunlight to bathe the entire space. Inside, I have curated a collection of intriguing, niche designs sourced from around the globe, alongside works by emerging local artists. The shop bears a simple name: Evening Intent. I do not harbor expectations of significant profits. This place serves as my sanctuary, a new world I have fashioned for myself. In the afternoon, I recline in a rocking chair by the window, cradling a stray cat I rescued, basking in the sun while perusing a leisurely book. The wind chimes tinkle softly. Welcome. I do not raise my head. Boss, business seems good. A familiar voice, laced with warmth, breaks the tranquility. I look up to see a tall man in a light gray casual suit standing at the door, holding a large fruit basket. It is Zhou Yuan. He wears a nonchalant smile, yet his gaze seems steadier than it was 6 months ago. Zhou Xiao. What an unexpected visit. I set down my book and the cat, rising to greet him. Are you here to shop, or to collect a debt? Look at you, speaking so bluntly. Zhou Yuan steps inside, placing the fruit basket on a nearby coffee table. Am I really that petty? I heard you opened a shop, so I thought I'd come to show my support and check on you. He surveys the small store, his eyes landing on several bold abstract paintings adorning the walls. Good taste. Thank you for the compliment. I pour him a glass of water. Zhou Xiao, you seldom visit without an agenda. Please speak your mind. Ah, still so direct. Zhou Yuan accepts the water, but does not drink, leaning against the counter as he regards me. I've heard you've completely severed ties with Xinyan? Yes. I nod, unwilling to delve further. So he has also left? He inquires. Yes. That brat Xinyan, truly a solitary figure now. Zhou Yuan shakes his head. a smirk of schadenfreude playing on his lips. His temper is foul, snapping at anyone who crosses his path. His affairs are no longer my concern, I reply coolly.
Indeed.
No longer your concern. Zhou Yuan chuckles softly, then shifts the conversation. Actually, I came today to apologize. Apologize? I raise an eyebrow, intrigued. Yes. Zhou Yuan, momentarily shedding his usual nonchalance, adopts a serious tone. 6 months ago, during the Jiang family's dire straits, I was incited by those from Honyuan to take advantage of the situation, attempting to extort you for shares in Liejingwan. That was unscrupulous of me. I have long wished for an opportunity to express my regret. I regard him with surprise. Zhou Yuan is actually apologizing? It's all in the past. I wave my hand dismissively. In business, it's a battlefield where everyone employs their means. You need not dwell on it. You are quite magnanimous. Zhou Yuan smiles, returning to his languid demeanor. However, though I may be a rascal, I believe in repaying debts of gratitude. If your little shop requires anything, or if Miss Jiang has any errands needing assistance, please do not hesitate to ask. Very well. I return his smile. I thank you in advance, Zhou Xiao. Zhou Yuan lingers a while longer, purchasing a small painting to hang in his study. Then, with the now empty fruit basket, the fruits having been unceremoniously thrust upon me under the pretense of visiting a patient, he saunters away. The wind chimes ring again, restoring tranquility to the shop. Sunlight filters through the glass, casting warm patches on the floor. I once more cradle the languid cat, settling back into the rocking chair. My phone vibrates with a message. It is from an unfamiliar number, yet I know who it is. Dear Sister 1E, I am doing well here. The rehabilitation is arduous, but I make small strides each day. The sunsets by the sea are breathtaking. Thank you for granting me a new lease on life. I will gradually repay the money I owe you. Do not worry.
Sui.
Attached is a photograph, a shimmering sea, a golden sunset, and a girl in a long dress sitting in a wheelchair, her back to the camera, gazing at the ocean. The sea breeze lifts her hair and the hem of her dress. Though her face is obscured, a sense of serene, hopeful strength emanates from her. I gaze at the empty space where her left calf should be, the skirt concealing it, feeling a pang of sadness. Yet, more prominently, I sense a release. We have both broken free. She has cast off the shackles of her former role, stepping into an uncertain, yet promising future of her own making. As for me, I set my phone down, observing the bustling street outside, sunlight warming my skin. The cat in my arms emits a soothing purr. The wind chimes occasionally tinkle, stirred by the entrance of customers. I reach for the hardcover, gold-embossed diary, which lies quietly in the drawer of the counter. I flip it open. The first half is filled with ominous printed words that foretold my dismal fate. The latter half contains my records of events, the company's crisis, my father's illness, the influx of funds, dialogues with Su He, the divorce. Each line is penned in my own handwriting. I turn to the final blank page, pick up a pen, and ponder for a moment before writing earnestly. Jiang Wani's shop. Today the sun is delightful. The cat is napping. Su He watches the sunset by the sea. Father is in a meeting. Mother is learning flower arrangement. Everything is just right. Upon finishing, I gaze at the words. Sunlight filters through the glass, illuminating the page. The black ink glimmering gently, as if imbued with a warm vitality. I close the diary, this time not tucking it away, but placing it prominently on the bookshelf. A small monument commemorating that absurd, tumultuous past we have rewritten with our own hands. I lift the cat and approach the large floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, a throng of people passes by, each hurrying toward their own stories. I lower my head and nuzzle the soft top of the cat's head. This time, it's a script I've written for myself. The sunlight is somewhat blinding. I squint, yet a smile gently lifts the corners of my mouth. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. I look forward to our next story.